Hey, Community Christian Church, how's everybody doing? Hey, just wanted to check in with you guys and let you know what we have going on today. And first off, I wanted to thank everybody for their comments, for following us, hanging with us, and sharing these videos. That makes a huge difference. And a shout out to Dave Price and Frank Wren for being willing to step up and do a video themselves. It's not always easy to jump in front of a camera and to go, but appreciate those guys being brave enough to step up and do it. And of course, Leanne has been doing a great job too. And so thank you guys. It's been really cool to stay connected, even digitally. It's better than nothing. And so anyway, I wanted to share a little bit about a guy named Joseph out of the Old Testament in the book of Genesis. I heard a story years ago. There was a missionary who was trying to convince his wife to like get inspired and get pumped for being on the mission field in Africa. And so they went to these different areas in Africa and they checked out different things. And one of the things they ended their trip on was this statue of a guy named David Livingstone, who was this famous missionary for years and held up as a hero to many. And there's a statue of him where he's kind of looking out over the plains of Africa, and he's staring out, and the husband was thinking, oh, this will inspire my wife for sure. And so he kind of sits there and looks at the statue, and he nudges his wife. He says, hey, what do you think David Livingstone is thinking while that statue is, and within that statue? And the wife was like, he's probably thinking, I've had it up to here with Africa. And so maybe that is where some of you guys are at this morning. And I know it's been different. It's just some weird stuff to have to go through, but here we are. So this guy named Joseph in the Old Testament, if you kind of look at the backside of Genesis from chapter 37 even up to 50, you see how important in the saga of Joseph go through the end of Genesis there. Such a cool story. But Joseph was somebody that had to face all kinds of discouragement out there. And so from the beginning, when his brothers turned on him, his own brothers sold him into slavery. I know some of us don't get along with our family or our siblings, but that's pretty rough. That's pretty rough. And so he gets sold into slavery, and he's got to work as a slave. But he says, hey, you know what? I still want to be faithful to God, and so I'm going to be the best worker I can, even as a slave. And so he works his way up, and this guy named Potiphar starts to take notice, and he's like, man, I want this guy in charge because he's diligent, he's trustworthy, and so this is the type of person I want in charge of my household. And unfortunately, as a young man, working hard, being impressive at his job, his wife, Potiphar's wife, took notice of Joseph, and she made some advances on him, and he rejected her advances. And so her response then was to make a false accusation at Joseph, and this got him in trouble. Even though it was false, some people speculate Potiphar probably knew his wife was not telling the truth because he knew how honest Joseph was. But he got sent to jail then. And so in jail, he's been sold into slavery, worked his way up. Now he gets thrown in jail, and he's there with this cupbearer and a baker. And these guys talk about these dreams that they have. And this cupbearer, who was like a king employee who would taste the wine or whatever that the king would drink to make sure it was clean, because people might try to poison the king. So the cupbearer would save him from that. What a dream job. And so the cupbearer said, I've been having these weird dreams. The baker, same thing. And he said, well, here's what those dreams mean. And that's kind of cool that Joseph just had this God skill that he said, here, let me use this to benefit you guys. And totally a gift given from God to interpret dreams. And so he explains to these guys what the dreams mean. And they're like, man, that's incredible. Thank you so much for interpreting these dreams. The baker's dream, not so much. His was not a great interpretation. He didn't appreciate what it meant. And so the cupbearer ends up getting pulled out of prison and restored back to his position. And Joseph is like, hey, make sure you remember me when you get back to your place. Like, don't forget about me and what I've done for you. it took a year for the cupbearer to be like, oh yeah, I remember there was a guy named Joseph who's in prison. He might be able to help the king in these struggles of dreams that he's having, and being able to interpret them. And the cynic in me wonders, I wonder what Joseph's face was like after a year of getting out of jail and seeing the cupbearer and being like, it took you a year to remember? But we don't know. Joseph was faithful, and he was committed, and maybe just wanted to only be faithful to God and use this gift that he had been given. And so he tells Pharaoh what this dream that he's had and what it means, about 7 years of feast, 7 years of famine, and that we need to prepare for what's to come. And so such a fitting story. In Psalm 105, it summarizes a little bit of the story of Joseph. It says in verse 16, he called down famine on the land and destroyed all their supplies of food. He sent a man before them, Joseph, sold as a slave. They bruised his feet with shackles. His neck was put in irons till what he foretold came to pass, till the word of the Lord proved him true. Verse 20 says, the king sent and released him. The ruler of peoples set him free. He made him master over his household, ruler over all he possessed. And so Joseph has gone from slave to number 2 in the house, then went from prisoner to number 2 in the kingdom. It's like he was made vice president because of his ability to interpret dreams. And so, like I said, we know, I know probably many people are going through a lot at this time and then this season of kind of being forced to be confined when we're used to being able to go and do whatever we want, whenever we want. But in these difficult seasons, I think it's important to be careful what you turn to. I know some people turn to, unfortunately, things like drugs and alcohol. When we're angry, when we're frustrated, when we're depressed, we sometimes will turn to things that are bad for us just because it might numb what we're feeling, what we're thinking. And so we just want that liquid mental Novocaine. That's not always the best thing to turn to. And unfortunately, other people will turn away from God. And once again, you don't want to compound bad situations with a worse decision. And so we want to challenge you guys to avoid those kind of things. Other people turn to things like negative attitudes, sarcasm, and bitterness. And that's a recipe for more negativity. That's a recipe to make things even worse when we turn to those type of things. And so when we are discouraged, what should we do? I think one of the best things we should do when we're discouraged is keep performing the task that we're supposed to do. Keep doing positive things. Go even if it means faking it, going through the motions. I've actually seen quite a few comments and jokes or memes about how spouses are going to kill each other or file for divorce by the time this thing is all over with. And let me challenge you with that to say, no, don't look at that at this season, at this time, as a time to drive each other nuts and you're just going to get angry with each other. Take time to put into practice what it says in 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not self-seeking. It never fails. I'll always be the first person to say, hey, you know what? My tone was just way out of line, and I just want to apologize. You deserve better than that. And so don't fall into that trap, into that temptation. And so put into practice what 1 Corinthians 13 has to say on all those things about love. Another thing to do when you're discouraged or dealing with adversity, look for somebody to encourage. Joseph reaches out to other people to encourage. That can always be some of the best medicine when we find somebody to reach out to encourage, to write them a note. Could be an old teacher, a coach, a former coworker, an old boss, minister, anybody that has meant a lot to you, that has impacted you in your life. You never know how much it means to write a note to them saying, hey, I just wanted to let you know, when you were there for us at this difficult time, that meant so much to us. There was a doctor who did that for his elementary school teacher who said, man, you meant so much to me as a kid, and I really needed that at this critical time, and sent that note to the teacher just saying, hey, whatever. And the teacher was so touched by it. She of course wrote back and said, man, that note meant the world to me. And thank you so much for writing that note. And so you never know what kind of impact that could make. That teacher went on to say, well, this felt so good to receive, I'm going to do this for other people. And so it springs to life again what God's word has to say in Ephesians 2, that we were created in Christ Jesus to do what? Good works. And so at this season, at this time where we might not be able to do what we want, there are still some good things that we can do, and we can continue to make a difference and to love people like Jesus would. So that's it for me, guys. Thanks again for tuning in and watching and liking and sharing. The more likes and shares that we get, the more Facebook will actually kind of let these videos get out to people, and it connects to people even more so. And so hope you guys are doing well. And check us out on Sunday. I know at 11:15 Dan will be speaking. And we've kind of set this up to be 11:15 is kind of our sweet spot. And so look for us, check in with us, like all these videos, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done that yet. I think YouTube will they'll let you know when we've uploaded new videos. And so anyway, thanks again, guys. Student ministry, we will be doing some Google Hangout time at 6 o'clock for middle school students, and then at 7 o'clock we'll do a Google Hangout with high school students. And so anyway, catch you later, guys. Have a good day.